Right now, we got wide open lines, plenty of room for you to get in with your question tonight. Maybe you got a question about a scripture passage, something you heard in church this past weekend, Easter weekend, or perhaps you were chatting with a friend in a coffee shop recently or looking online and something caught your attention. You're not sure about it. You want to put it to the test. That's exactly why we're here tonight at the Grace Message. So glad you joined us. 877-655-6755. We got a couple open lines. It's time to dive in. If you're a first-time caller, we say go for it. We love first-time callers. If you're a veteran with the program, you've been part of a conversation in the past, join us again. Hop on the line and give us a ring, 877-655-6755. Maybe it's a personal problem that's going on in your life, in your marriage, whatever it is, we want to hear from you tonight. That's exactly why we're here. Well, all lines are filled. We're going to pop out to Georgia for our first call of the evening, and we'll talk with Aaron. Hi, Aaron. What do you got for us tonight, my friend?
Well, I want to put something to the test, Dr. Farley, in Luke 14 here. I want to see what you think about this. And so you hear over the years in evangelicalism, they use this call to discipleship. And like, oh, you got to, be willing to do this. If you can't be saved unless you're really, really, really committed and so on and so forth. So they use that. You got to hate, your father, your mother, your wife, your children, brothers, says your own life. Or you can't be my disciple.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this, and you tell me what you think about this. This seems to me to be sort of like a recapitulation of love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. I mean, you can't do it. And it's almost like the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus said in this high bar that no one can really do. And the correct response is for grace, for mercy, not to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and keep the law. Because if you look at, chapter 13, it's sort of like he's lamenting that Israel won't get on board. And then at the beginning of this chapter, you got the Pharisees there. He's having dinner with them. They're examining him and they're questioning him, his use of the law.
Yeah.
And so at the end of this, he's basically saying, you got to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Step up, see if you can do it. And, of course, the wrong response is to think you can. What do you think about that as opposed to the traditional view, which is this is metaphorical? The word in Greek for hate is really like not that. What do you think about this?
Yeah. Well, I do love what you're saying. I think you got a good perspective on this passage. First, it's a challenging passage, and I think we need to comb through it. Luke 14, large crowds were traveling, and turning to them, Jesus says, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father, mother, wife, and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, okay, it says such a person cannot be my disciple. So I know we can try to color the word hate. I mean, we can try to, water it down and all of that. But really, I think what he's saying is in comparison to a focus on me, you're going to have to disregard what mom and dad think. You're going to have to disregard what brother and sister think. You're going to have to disregard what your kids think. And for the Jews, I mean, just think about this, how real this is for the Jews. The Jews of that day, I mean, they resisted Jesus as Messiah. They ultimately murdered him. They certainly gave the disciples a hard time, torturing and killing many of them, most likely. They tried to hunt them down. And so clearly there was a rejection of Christ. And so Jesus is saying to the Jews, now whether they can do it or not, I mean, that's a second question. We'll get there in a minute. But I mean, this portion is not actually, you cannot wake up and justify the idea that Jesus promotes hate. Jesus is not promoting hate, but in comparison to public opinion, he's saying you're going to have to not care about public opinion compared to how much you love me. Now, that's just for salvation. I mean, that's just a Jewish reality. Because look, I mean, just think about it, okay? The Jewish tradition is thousands of years old. Go down the street 6 blocks, and they would have seen the temple, the Jewish temple, the magnificent structure with big budget religion and all the tradition, all the heritage, all the lineage. Look, that's where your dad went, and your grandpa went, and your great grandpa, and everybody went there, and they gave sacrifices, and they paid homage to the law and to Moses. And now you're telling me, I mean, you're telling me that in the midst of all that tradition and the midst of all that history, that you are going to reject that way of trying to get right with God, and you're going to pop over to that little home church? Are you kidding me? That little home church, the one over there. I mean, it's about 10 blocks away from the temple. It has nothing to do with the practices of the temple. They only got about 18 people over there. They got no money. They got no budget. It's like a little Bible study in the living room over there. And you're going to reject the temple practices, reject the works of the temple in order to go hang out with that church group. Well, you better believe you're going to make mom and dad angry. You're going to be rejected by your family. You're going to be seen as a heretic. You're going to experience so much rejection. And so Jesus is setting them up for this. So there's a choice to make. And I think when you put a Jewish lens on this passage, it really helps. I mean, obviously, Jesus is not saying, I want you to hate people because God is love. But what he's saying is, you're going to have to be willing to be rejected. You're going to have to be willing to care way more about what I think versus what other people think, including your own family. I came with a sword, Jesus says. I came to divide families. So then you go on and it says, whoever does not carry their cross cannot be my disciple. So then, they don't know what he's talking about. It's kind of like when he says, eat my flesh and drink of my blood. They're like, gross. What is this, cannibalism? What does he even mean? Well, likewise, when he says carry your cross, they're thinking, okay, wait a minute, Roman torture? Like you're bringing up Roman torture for criminals? What is that? And so his point is that you're going to have to be crucified with Christ. You're going to have to go through a death, burial, and resurrection. So it's interesting because in one sense, I agree with you that nobody can attain to this. Like nobody can pull this off. Like you can't crucify yourself. You can't become a new creature yourself. You can't do this to yourself. But at the same time, Jesus is saying, look how much has to happen for you to be saved. It's radical. It's not behavior improvement. It's not sin management. It's not law keeping. It's surgery, ripping out your old self, giving you a new self. You got to go to the cross to be saved. So, you know what? He's saying basically, do you want me? Do you want me? Do you really want me? Do you want salvation in me? Do you want new life? Well, then, you know what? The gate's narrow. It's a gate of grace. And, what I would say to our grace friends out there, just like you, Aaron, I mean, you've counted the cost. We're not talking about I know how we've traditionally talked about counting the cost, but I mean, you've recognized the cost. There are religious people who disagree with you right now. There are people that want nothing to do with you. Maybe you've lost friends over the gospel. Maybe you've offended people over the gospel of grace. Maybe you were participating in a certain religious setting and they told you, no, don't talk about that grace. I mean, there is a cost to a Jesus-centered message. Now take that, what you and I and so many have experienced, travel back in time 2,000 years ago, and imagine being a person in Israel who is now acquainted with the gospel. You've heard the gospel and you're pretty sure that it's probably the truth, and you're flirting with it, you're thinking about it. So Jesus is saying, whoa, I mean, you got to draw a line in the sand here. Is it Moses or is it Jesus? Is it the law or is it grace? Is it your way and what you're doing, or is it me and what I've done for you? Is it works or is it grace? And that's the line in the sand, the crossroads, the intersection, the decision, the multiple choice question. How are you going to go forward? And if you choose Jesus, get ready. Get ready to be rejected. Get ready to be hated. Get ready for division. Get ready for fights. Get ready for obstacles. Get ready to go against the grain of Jewish tradition. Get ready for people to misunderstand you, falsely accuse you, and so much more. So it's not about them making a heroic effort. It's just reality that when we choose Jesus, we're going against the religious grain. And my guess is, Aaron, you've already experienced that to a large degree. Now imagine it in the heart of Israel, in Jerusalem. Wow, what they faced, those early Christians. Well, thanks for your call tonight, Aaron, and I hope that helps. Reach out to us again anytime. Great to hear from you. Let's go now to Arizona, and we'll talk with David. Hi, David.
Hi. My question is about when Jesus talked to the disciples about you'll do even greater things than people forward will, in regards to miracles. And today, in America at least, it just doesn't seem like there's the same miracles that there were back in Jesus' day. And I also wanted to ask along with that, do you think that the the fruits of the Spirit, and the gifts of the Spirit are still active today, or do you think they just look a lot different today?
Yeah, so we'll take the second part first here. I mean, I see no reason that the gifts of the Spirit have just vanished. I'm not buying it. I don't think so. These folks who say, that the gifts of the Spirit are gone, their logic is flawed in my view, because what I'm seeing there is, Paul is saying that certain things will cease, but he's talking about at the end of the age. He's talking about in heaven. He's talking about how prophecy won't be needed in heaven, and he's talking about tongues not being needed in heaven. But the heaven is not happening right now. I mean, we're still waiting for the return of the Lord. So the gifts are here for the church, but I do think, to answer your question, I do think that we have misinterpreted them. I do think that. So it's really important to understand what the gifts are, meaning, what they are authentically. Because tongues, if it's for evangelism, then don't we need evangelism? Well, we do. If prophecy is not future telling and fortune telling, but if prophecy is instead talking about the gospel and applying it to people's lives, I mean, that's what Corinthians says. Corinthians says that prophecy is for exhortation, and it is for a consolation. So when you console somebody, when you exhort somebody, it's for edification, when you edify someone. And so that's exactly what the gifts are. The gift of prophecy is for today, but it's not what people think. It's not about a fortune cookie. It's not about future telling. It's not any of those things. So, the gifts aren't gone. They're not vanished, but maybe we've misinterpreted some of them, and in context, they make a whole lot more sense. That sharing the gospel in foreign languages would make perfect sense. And comforting people with the gospel would make perfect sense. Those gifts are still around. You see that with missionaries at times. You see it with Christian counseling at times. And so sometimes I think we're expressing those gifts and we don't even know it. Now, about these works, so you're talking about John 14. He says, whoever believes in me will do the works I've been doing, and they will even do greater things than these, because I'm going to the Father. So what I would say there is, look, yes, there are miracles that happen throughout history. We try to say, well, this has got to be about me. I haven't done a miracle lately. What's wrong with me? No, we're talking about thousands, millions, billions of Christians over thousands of years, the entire history of the church after the cross, after Pentecost. Certainly, lots of miracles have occurred. Even in the early church, you see them recorded in Acts. And then you got to ask about loving people and the fruit of the Spirit. Isn't there a miraculous love that we have for others when we forgive people who've hurt us deeply and we love them with the love of Christ that's been poured in our hearts? Isn't that, isn't that as spectacular as a blind person being able to see? How about an unloved person being loved? So I think that we have been mesmerized by the spectacular, and we get out our measuring stick, and next thing you know, we're measuring how we're doing compared to Paul, Peter, James, and John, and we decide that we're not as good. Well, the measuring stick is really Jesus himself in us, through us, whatever he's doing. Like, Lord, I don't have an agenda today. If you want to be gentle through me and that's all you got, well, you can be gentle. If you want to be loving through me and that's all we're going to do today, then I'm up for it. I'm up for anything, and I'm up for nothing. I'm willing for anything to happen because I trust you. I trust your life in me. You want to heal somebody? Great. You want to raise somebody from the dead? Great. But maybe you just want me to forgive my spouse and be kind to my kid and trust you with my everyday problems. If that's the case, I'm willing for that to be my life as well. You're my life. So I think that's the real attitude to have here. And it's not that every Christian everywhere in every era needs to be doing a miracle. So I hope that helps as you think about that passage. And please, we'd love to hear from you again. Great question. All right, well, we're going to go to Ozona, Texas, and we'll talk with Clay. Hi, Clay.
How are you, Dr. Farley?
Hey, I'm doing great. What's on your heart tonight, my friend?
Well, my wife has got a master's in psychology, and so we always get into kind of discussions about emotions and feelings and stuff like that. And are the fruits of the Spirit, are they emotions? Just can you put a biblical perspective on that? Because I know they can get in the way sometimes, and they can get outrageous.
Well, the fruit of the Spirit is not emotion necessarily. I mean, it's a tough one, what you're asking. The fruit of the Spirit is the Holy Spirit's activity in us. And so there's definitely thoughts. The Lord will prompt us with thoughts. So let's take love. Love is not a feeling, but the Spirit of God living in us would give us thoughts, loving thoughts about someone. And might we feel some love attached to that? Yes. But then, you go to self-control. Now, is self-control a feeling? Well, again, it's a thought. It's truth. So we're believing the truth that the Spirit of God is counseling us, and then we might feel something. We might feel, wow, you've got this, Jesus. Wow. You know what? You're my satisfaction. I don't need to choose sin. I'm really going to trust you in this. You really do know what you're talking about, Lord. And so we have a thought, and then we have a feeling that might come after that. But we're not chasing the feeling. The fruit of the Spirit is not an emotion. The fruit of the Spirit is the Spirit's activity. He's a person living in us. And so we trust Him. And when we trust Him, then, you know what? He's going to counsel us and guide us and comfort us and show us how to respond to somebody. So we're trusting His life. We just celebrated Easter. A lot of people trust His death, but do we trust His life? A lot of people trust the cross, but do we trust the resurrection? Because through the resurrection, he gave you his life. He gave his life for you, and then he gave his life to you. And now he lives his life through you, through your unique personality. And so, that's the fruit of the Spirit, Christ living through you. So I hope that gives you some clarity there on the issue. I mean, feelings come and go, and feelings are part of the human experience, and we can learn a lot. We shouldn't crush our feelings, diminish our feelings, disregard our feelings. Feelings are part of the human experience. We can't just belittle them or be negative about feelings. They show us something. They show us where our thoughts are. So if I'm very angry, I'm feeling all kinds of anger. You know what I've learned about that, Clay, is that if I'm feeling a whole lot of anger, it's probably because I've been hurt. So then I ask myself, am I hurt? Is that what this really is? Because I'm angry, but am I really hurt at a deeper level? Isn't that what the feeling is? And then if I'm hurt, then how did that hurt me? And it's usually someone treated me in a way that I didn't expect. And so then what's the answer to that? Well, I don't just say, well, gosh, I got to get rid of this feeling. No, I say, well, they hurt me. And so I'm going to forgive them. I'm going to choose to process this and say, Lord, they hurt me. It made me feel like a zero. It made me feel attacked. It made me feel belittled. It made me feel insulted. It made me feel worthless. It made me feel, and I can fill in the blank there and say, Lord, that's the damage. But guess what? You've made me a forgiving person. And so I choose to forgive them and release them from anything that they owe me. Even if they do it again, I'm canceling their debt. I'm releasing them from the expectation. My heart wants to forgive them. My heart wants to love them, and I'm going to choose. So, I don't feel like doing that, but I choose it. And then, maybe 30 minutes later, maybe 5 days later, my feelings catch up. And I'm feeling good about the whole thing, but maybe not immediately. But I'm not walking by emotions. I'm walking by truth. I'm walking in the truth of my new heart, my new identity, who I really am in Christ, and what my new heart really wants to do is forgive them and love them. That's who God